Hello. Okay, so he said I was going to talk about my game, but I'm not really going to talk about my game. I'm going to talk about my company, because starting a company is a big decision to make, and I feel like people don't really talk about the business aspect of doing that, because it's really, really cool to get together with people that you know, and you're like, let's do a thing, and then you don't think about all the things that you have to do with the thing. So MK Ultra is post-natal, because realistically you want to birth a thing rather than plop a dead thing out and then look at it. My hope is that the MK Ultra is born, runs around like a small child, having a lifetimes, instead of just lying there and we look at it. So, company. So, hello, I started a company, apparently. And you're going to be like, hey, why do that? So, it's going to have some helpful things in it. But at this point in the writing of it, I hadn't written it yet. So I didn't really know if it's going to have anything helpful in it. But it might. So let's find out. So you're like, why would you start a company? So there are obviously lots of good reasons, but it's a lot of fucking work. And if you don't have any interest in filling in forms or being a boss of people, like telling them to do things, you shouldn't do that. Just get some other dildo to do it. That's basically, you're like, no, well, why would I do it? So here are the reasons on the thing, right? You have a good idea that you want total ownership over. You don't like authority, which is, a good one. Or you love like filling in forms, paying lawyers, things like that, because you're just fucked in the head. Or you have this strong team, right? Maybe you were at school with people, maybe you're already at another company, and they're like, well, somebody has to run this fucking company, and it's going to be you, right? And you're like, oh no, that's what's happening. So then you're like, well, who's this guy on the stage talking to us? Because you don't know who I am. And I'm like, well, I was a games journalist for what was officially known as too long. Then I went and I actually worked on Sound Shapes as a designer producer. You may have played that, seen that. What that means is, if you're interested, is I technically worked with Beck. And apparently, according to Twitter and things like that, the kids don't know who Beck is anymore, so you don't care. I'm also basically talentless. This is a good thing to be if you're going to run the company, because then you get people who are talented and you make them do the things. I'm not good at coding. I mean, I've tried it. Can't draw. So anyway, basically, did Sound Shapes. That happened, and then I was like, all right, what next, right? So you're like, okay, so that's who that guy is. Basically, it's the authority thing. Don't like it, right? Don't want to have a boss. So inside my head went, all right, well then be a boss then. And I was like, fine, I will. And then my brain was like, good. And then I was fucking stuck. So, starting a company, right? The first thing I have to stress, we're all having a nice time here at the old GDCs, but the first thing I have to stress is you have to really take it seriously. This means, first of all, have a project in mind. Do a thing that you want to do. Everyone's here like, yeah, I'm not going to start a company, and you just be like, well, now I have to do a thing. I don't know what it's going to be, but at some point, right, I'll have a thing. Then you need a minimum amount of people. This is really important. The minimum amount of people. I'm going to talk about this later. The minimum amount of people to get started on that project. Then you have to do really boring things. Register as a corporation. You have to have contracts with everybody. So you're like, no, I have really good people that I work with. We're super chill. We're all bros. Nothing is ever going to happen bad to us because we're so friendly. No. You're starting a company because you want to have a lot of things to do, but you don't want a lot of liability. So there's you form a corporation. The corporation can go bankrupt. You'll be fine, right? Contracts with people, even if they're your friends, you can sign them. They are protected. You are protected. Everyone is protected. That's the most important thing. You're trying to have a nice time, and even if you think you're going to have a nice time with no contracts and handshakes and everything, you're eventually not going to have a nice time. I promise you. I promise you. So you're like, I don't want to pay a lawyer. Neither did I. I did not want to pay a lawyer, and I really didn't want to pay them when I saw the contract, that the lawyer, the bills and all that. It was very, very expensive. Let's have some actual details about that. The company in which I run and again, this sounds really boring. Everyone wants to leave already, but this is really, really important. The company is a corporation with a single shareholder, who is me. This is because I want to control the company, right? And it's also because I want to avoid situations early in the company's life where someone else is like, I don't want to work for the company, you have to buy me out. And you're like, okay, well, how much of the shares actually are they worth now? Or they're like, actually, I want to buy you out. No one wants to do this stuff, right? That's the bad time you're talking about, and you're going to be protected. So if you're in a really tight team of people, you can obviously split these shares. It's the type of thing you would talk to an accountant and stuff about. In my opinion, people can do 50-50. In my opinion, someone should have a controlling interest because it's just they're who the buck stops with. It's really important to have someone that the buck stops with. So let's have more tasty details. The other thing is that having actual employees that you have hired is really, really hard as an indie studio. Because what I'm talking about here is I'm not talking about you've just come away from, I don't know, fucking Google or somebody, and you're like, I've got millions of dollars, and I'm going to do a thing. I'm talking about somebody who just come out of school, or you're like me, and you don't really have any savings or anything, and you can't just, like, I don't know, bootstrap? Am I using the term correctly? I don't know. So it's really, really hard to, like, have employees who are, like, full-time, and they have to have, you know, healthcare and all this stuff. The easiest way to have employees is to have everyone as a contractor, basically, because it's not actually a dick move. Contractors is just a natural thing. As a games journalist, as a freelancer for a long time, they get money, they do the thing, and they're still actually protected because you will have a proper contract with them. The one thing is that people who, if you're all ownership, you'll have shares, you can't actually really be a contractor because you have investment in the company. You have to do this thing where you like pull dividends, or you could make yourself employees, but it's really annoying. So the easiest thing to do is just pull dividends. Dividends are like paying yourself off based off profits at some point in the future, or maybe you've had made profits already because you launched really super early. But it's fine. Basically, the most important thing is to get an accountant. You don't want to get an accountant any more than you want to get a lawyer. But it's really, really important. This is like lawyers, I'll say, are ultimately become kind of optional. But I don't think accountants are because there's all kinds of ways that you're going to fall into a pit, like into a hole, basically. So get an accountant unless you already are an accountant, in which case you're golden. You know, like you've got everything ready. You know. So let's talk more about my company. I'm paying myself these dividends. Everyone else is a paid contractor, but of course I still have a contract with the company, right? So one of the most important things is because the corporation, this corporation formed, MCulture is a corporation. They own everything that I do. They own everything that everybody does. And that, again, that's to protect like liability. And the most important thing is you want to have contracts, even though these people who are your friends, let's assume that they're your friends, they have to agree to what they're going to do for the company, and they have to agree to what they're going to get for doing it. You can't be wishy-washy about this because as an indie, you're either going to be giving people payment, or you're giving them a rev share at some point in the future. They need to know that either something's going to happen in the future where money goes into them, or like they're getting money as it goes along. And this is important, not because you're like, aha, now I will be a corporate owner. I will get to put CEO on my like business cards. People will think I'm a big, dog. I can go places. When I go on a flight, they'll let me into the lounges. Maybe I don't know. Is that how it works? No, it's to protect everybody, basically. So, details for me, I paid a lawyer. You probably don't want to pay a lawyer, it costs a lot of money. Paid a lawyer for basically a super lawyer-ease contract. Ultimately, in the end, realistically, I would maybe not necessarily have done it exactly this way, but these lawyer-ease contracts are super, super good because even if you can't understand them, basically protect you from other lawyers, right? Because other lawyers look at it, and they're like, they've used a plain English here, so I know that there's a squeak here, so now he owes me lots of money, and bad things happen. But you can actually get around this by, this is something you should talk to if you actually are going to do this, is you get contracts, but then you basically run work orders. So they sign a lawyer's contract, which is like, blah, 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 to the X, part 7, then plain English basically, like, literally, so the work order basically just says, do these things for me, then money will happen, or rev share will happen. And it just says it basically in English, and it's much easier. Any lawyer will help you with this. But the most important thing, basically, is if you're working with people, you're running a company, you're making a game, the corporation has to own everything that's made for the game. You probably don't think about this. You're like, oh, that's unfair. People should have their bits. They want to. But you can't really do it that way because if somebody goes, well, I did all this art for your game, and then a year later they're like, you know what, I don't like the game. I want all my art back. Then you're just fucked. There's nothing you can do. Like, you're just completely screwed. Like if you're really, really, really super happy about it, you can basically argue for in perpetuity rights to everything. So they can be like, well, I created. So you made a game and it has a very stylish character or whatever, and they're like, if I really want to own this character, you can basically work out a contract where they own the character, they can use it, but realistically, what you want to be agreeing with them is things like, they can't use it in another game, things like that. It sounds harsh. The best people, like for example, with my game, company owns everything except for music and sound design, because as far as I'm concerned, like musicians, you can use that in other ways. Like they can't use it in other games, obviously, but they could, I don't know if it came up in an advert, or sound design is also a good one, because these people, you're probably likely to be paying less money because you're allowing them to basically own the thing that they're giving you. Okay, I'm really running out of time apparently, so I probably won't even hit the end of this, so I'm going to have to go really, really fast. Right, a lot of options for content. So I'm going to go for a lawyer. There's apps. There's a thing called Do Contract someone launched. You can maybe get a lawyer pro bono, but I wouldn't rely on that. I left contracts very, very late with my company. I suggest you do not do that, because you'll have people working for months, and then you basically have to retroactively agree. I mean, people are cool, right? The people you're working with probably are going to be cool. Retroactively agree that they are not that they are going to let the corporation own everything that they just did with no contract. And also, it's really bad for them because they're not actually secure when it comes to pay and all this other stuff. Right. I'll come back to contracts in a little bit because it's important. How did we actually get started? So after Sound Shapes, I was just dusting around, unemployed for a while. Met some of the other guys who worked in Sound Shapes, and we were like, why don't we go to the Toronto Indie Games Jam? And we'll make a prototype. We made this prototype, Knight and Damsel. And I think game jams are super, super important if you're just getting started. They're a really easy way to pull a team together fast. If you don't have a team already, it's really easy to basically be assigned one. I like local game jams, like Toronto Games Jam, or there's like Nordic Game, and there's probably ones here, there's ones everywhere, basically, right? There's also the ones online. You can work with people remotely. It really allows you, the most important thing you can do is pick a simple idea and just do it. You have to try and finish a thing, and I didn't put it on the slide, but you have to try and do something with that thing. So many people make game jam games, and they're like, all right, that was fun, and they just basically throw it away. I actually think it's really, really a good idea to do something with a thing. You can't really overlook the potential for using like a weekend or something as a really intense prototyping session. So, describe Knight and Damsel for a bit. It's an attempt to explore the damsel in distress trope through mechanics. It's probably a good discussion for me to have at some point, whether I manage that. We're not having that one now. All that matters is, at this point, is that we made a prototype, and we decided to press ahead with it. So at the end of the jam, it looked like this. We had a project from the corporation. I suggest you pick a better name than MK Ultra, because although it's my initials and everyone likes the sound of Ultra, it's also the name of a horrible mind control experiment that killed lots of people. So probably, unless you really, really like having conspiracy theorists contact you on Twitter, don't call your thing the thing. And then don't spend any of your money. I am a jerk for saying this, because I'm very, very privileged in this room to have experience and having shipped a game. And if you're just starting out, necessarily, it's much, much rougher, right? So that's why you already have a sweet prototype. You spent a week having a nice time, or a weekend or whatever, you made a thing. And if for all the discussion of me having had experience in having shipped something, I would 100% never have got any money from anybody with having a prototype to show them. Like, so it's the most important thing. Make something really fast. So you maybe don't have money. You're saying, I can't spend my money, so what I can do? So if you can't spend your time, you can't spend your money, you can spend your time, you can cut back on your own life. This is only for people who are shareholders, because you have an investment in the company. Anyone you have as a contractor, you are going to pay them fairly, and that includes promise of revenue share, because if they're like, I will work for free, then you have to give them something at the end. I personally, genuinely do live more or less on the breadline right now. But the company is supported by my local government. I'm Ontario, new media funding, and we also had the platform holder give us a little money. Not very much, but enough, right? So you got to explore, really you have to explore every option for funding as you start. You have your contract, you have your company, for every option for funding. Being Canadian does not sound amazing, but it's super good for this type of thing. Like Ontario, other places, there's all types of funds. So you have to look, I don't know necessarily your own situation, because there's a large number of people that I don't know individually. You may have something locally that you can do, and if you can personally work out, your own budget, how much you can live on, you can probably ask for less money, but you have to be super realistic. I won't talk about Kickstarter and stuff, because there's lots of options for certain levels of amount of money to ask. But The most important thing is you say, I can get by on so much, but that's really nice to say that, I can get by on nothing, basically, man. You have to think, how long is the project? What if it isn't that long? What if it's longer? What if someone quits? What if someone wastes your time? Money you beg for a dentist? Which is something I say because there's Lloyd Kaufman, the guy who made all the trauma movies. He said that the best people to get money from to make movies is dentists, because dentists have lots of money. And I've never tried that, but I've always been kind of obsessed with the idea of just like being like, and basically that they would give me money. I don't know if they would. They mostly like to drill holes in my mouth. But before you pitch, this is probably the most key thing I can tell you: project management. Everybody hates project management, but when I started the company, I was like, all right, I'm going to design public relations, business relations, project management, because I want to run a really small company. But that is you fucked it, son, fucked it really, really hard. You cannot do it all. So you have to start splitting up the tasks. That's why you have to have other people who are good, that you are paying money and things. Basically, after 6 months working at Damsel, everything was slipping. And in my opinion, somebody spends a lot of time in project management, and they shouldn't be like the person who's like the CEO and who also gives the money. Personally, I don't like the idea of being like, you must do the thing or else the money will not happen to you. They should just be like, I'm another person working, and if you do the thing, maybe I won't get the money. So I have my programmer. He started to basically split his time between project management and programming, and that's worked really, really well for us. So you have to have the project management. You have to, if you're prototyping, you have to set yourself a limit. You realistically, because we were talking about, you have formed a company. You want to put something out. You basically have to get to the point where you're like, this is the prototype we're making. We're just going to keep going with this. You have to be, get the game functional. You're in production. You literally, everyone says this every time, which is like, how long is it going to take? And then you say double it. You're like, you actually have to do it, because it doesn't matter. You look at, I looked at my schedule and I was like, oh my God, we will not be done until like 2 years in the future. But it doesn't matter, because people are always going to want video. Even the Manborgs who will rule us in 2028 will want video games. I think they will anyway, or I'm hoping, because otherwise I'm in trouble. So in my personal experience, we set ourselves a massively unrealistic target. Because we just thought, 6 months, we'll be fine. We've made terrible errors as a result of this, and this is why you have to do project management. Because we thought straight into production, but after 3 months or so, we realized we hadn't actually really locked down the design. So we had an artist who actually had lots of work. We were like, okay, there are these levels, do the art, do this stuff. And he was like, it's taking a long time to design, so I'm just going to twiddle my thumbs, right? But it's both of our faults. We should never have hired him until we actually just needed someone with like set rules of what they were doing and when they were doing it. If we had a realistic schedule, we wouldn't have taken this artist on. We wouldn't have taken an artist on until actually we let someone go, and which I feel really bad about. But the most important thing is it comes all the way back to contracts, which is we were both protected, right? So this guy who did all of our concepting and everything, we still own all of that art, but he also still going to get rev share at the end. We paid him for the whole time, and he'll also get his credit, right? So at no point can either of us screw each other, which is like super, super nice, right? That's the best case scenario you can hope for with someone that you have to let go or work something out, which is like, okay, maybe you're not pals anymore, but everyone is going to be okay. And this still costs us a lot of money, and it's because we made the mistake with hiring someone too soon, So that's that thing I just said. I said it too early. But basically, hiring, about diversity a bit, because I think this is really important, and it's something that I really, really worked hard on with the company, which is, in my opinion, that if you're an independent studio, you have to lead the charge on diverse hiring in all forms. But it's really, really difficult, right? Because it's not just about diversity, it's about fairness. You can't just be like, all right, well, I'll hire 2 women rather than 1 man. Because it's actually super, super easy to pay privileged people less. Because if you think about internships, which is like, I'm, white, and my parents are all waspy, and they got lots of money, and now they can give me money, and I can work somewhere for free, and then I'll crony my way up the stuff, right? Basically, it's going to put your company under a lot of pressure, right? Your shareholders, who are the people who we were talking about earlier, like you yourself, who are giving yourself dividends, you're going to have to be on the breadline so you can pay your contractors more. And if you have the privilege to breadline, my opinion is you have to do it, to try and get more people into game making, because it's just fucking do it. Come on, Jesus. And I'm not going to pure big myself up for this. I'm not like a wank. I was happy to manage diverse people because once I was able to secure funding to make sure that we could, it definitely makes your project better. But the problem is, and everyone in this room will definitely face this if you're trying to do this, is it's really, really hard to craft job applications that make diverse applicants feel welcome. and it's not solved. There's no easy way to find a way to make people who would not apply for your job because they're like, oh, I don't feel qualified, but really they are. Because like there's certain things that like white men will apply for jobs even if they feel underqualified. Most other people won't. It's just something that's not solved. I would like to work to solve it, but I don't really know how. But again, I'm privileged because I live in Toronto and there's very strong development community there. There's groups like Dames Making Games who basically I just went to them and I was like, I need help doing diverse times. And they said, hi, here are like 3 people or 4 people or however many people it was, and just make them do things. And I was like, I will do that. So literally the best thing I could do is try and find local or national organizations, either feminist organizations or games organizations, and just talk to them. Like, because people like, if you come to people with basically an open heart and mind, like it's gonna work, you know. So it's getting there. Copyright Cappy. A year later, we're nearing a release. Money got tight, but the main thing I'm trying to say to you is it wouldn't have got as tight if we hadn't done proper scheduling. Contracts and becoming a corporation protected us and protected our employees from what could have been a bigger issue. And a diverse team made the game better. But remember, I still get to be Mr. Final Say. I get to say if somebody's like, actually, I think we should do it. People really, really want us to rename the game Night and Dame. But in my opinion, I like the twist that we're doing. So I get to say, no, we're not going to do that. So you can still, it doesn't mean you have to, do whatever, right? You just have to not be afraid to be the man, because you're not really going to be the man for running a company like a company, You're much more likely to get a second project, and I'm really excited to work on the second one, and it literally feels like an achievable goal now. Anyway, this is what 9 times looks like. Can I make this play? Is that a thing I can do? Just click it? I probably can't, but it looks like that. And, oh my God, spinning little rainbow thing. Okay, there we go. And then here's all the things. Just take a photo of this slide, because it's got all the connections to the information all about me and the things that I do, and it gives thanks to my cats. And I guess, Brandon, do I just pass this on to Catacombs kids, people? Please to enjoy.